Blog Talk Radio.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Game On. I'm your host, Jerry Jacob. This is a new show produced by She Got Game Media, and it's all about success stories. Our guests are game changers, celebrities, as well as successful rising stars in business, music, and the arts. This is not your average talk show. On Game On, each guest is asked to share 5 winning strategies or ideas that have made and continue to make them successful. Hopefully what they have to offer will inspire you and motivate you to elevate your brand and get your game on. We're excited today because our guest today is former professional basketball player, and she was an all-star in the Women's Pro Basketball League and then president of the WNBA. Today, she is founder and chief executive officer of Generation W, a true game changer with her desire to champion great people and great ideas. Today, getting her game on is Miss Donna Orender. Donna, welcome to Game On.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
That is so great. I just wanted to, so the audience gets a picture of exactly, your background and how it led to Generation W. If you can just give us kind of a little bit of a time capsule as to, your accomplishments, especially, with professional basketball and your stint as president of WNBA and how it led to Generation W.
Listen, as I think we all know, our lives are a journey, and it takes a while for us to really see it. When we're always caught up in the moment thinking about the next thing, I would say every part of my life has kind of been a surprise. I was a young girl that absolutely loved sports, played on 6 teams when I was in high school. Basketball emerged as the one that I just had a passion for, which I still do, and ultimately ended up playing professional basketball in the first women's league prior to the WNBA, although when I had the job as the president of the league, I always loved when people said, "Hey, did you play in the league?" And I looked at them and said, "I could kiss you for that." My career after playing basketball led me to one in the media. I worked in sports television for several years, got a great MBA in business on the ground because I got to work at the cable. I got to work at the network, which is certainly still a dominating and influential media, but then I also got to work at the burgeoning level of sports cable business before having my own business. And then, like I said, I think it was like an on-the-ground MBA, which has really prepared me well for all the businesses that I've been able to participate in since that time. And then ultimately, after working for 17 years at the PGA Tour, where I got recruited, which really is interesting because I knew nothing about golf. Of all the sports I covered at ABC, they say ABC Wild World of Sports, and I was a researcher, and I researched everything. I knew about, from boxing. I knew so little about golf, but ultimately that ended up defining my career in a major way. And it was there that I got an invitation to come talk about the WNBA job.
Wow. So what were you actually doing? You said you were doing researching as a researcher there, but specifically as it related to the area of golf. Were you a broadcaster? What exactly?
No, at ABC Sports. No, when you started at ABC Sports, you start as a production assistant. So basically, you do everything. Whatever they ask you, you do. I was really good at getting coffee. I always love to tell kids that today. That, you know what, yes, that was my first job, getting coffee for everybody, but you know what? If that was my job, I was going to make sure I was the best at it. And it makes a difference. I mean, that whole attitude of approaching no matter what your task is, that you take it on with a degree of intention and pride so that you can excel, and that will hopefully help define the way you approach the world and seek meaning in it as the years go by.
That's exciting. And then you said it bridged over to, I guess, at that point you went back to the NBA. Maybe I lost in terms of the.
I went to ABC.
Timeline.
I worked in network television. I worked in cable television. I then was drafted, if you will, recruited to come work for a new emerging company called PGA Tour Productions.
Okay.
And that's when my world in golf began. I spent a couple of years there before saying, you know what, I'm going to start my own company. So at that point, I had my own company for a couple of years. I had a lot of different kinds of clients, many of them in sports, but some of them outside. And that's when the golf industry, the PGA Tour, came back to recruit me to say, hey, would I run the company help put together the company now known as PGA Tour Entertainment. And ultimately, that's what I did for 17 years.
Wow.
Well, it grew from there. I took on the entertainment company. We built that up to, a $30 million company. We built a 30,000 square foot truly showcase building, which still houses the company. And from there, I ran on to run our global programming, production, digital businesses, not to mention launching our radio business and several others. So it was really a dynamic time to be in the world of golf.
Yeah, it sounds like a tremendous number of, you were wearing so many hats. So what a great, growth curve in terms of learning almost every aspect of the business.
Yeah, it was great, and it was wonderful. When you're a mom, you get used to doing lots of things. You need 8 arms and a brain that can process. And so, I had young twins at home, and they actually helped keep me in training.
Wow, and moving, forward. When were you looking or began the creation of Generation W? Because you're founder.
Well, after spending After spending 6 years at the WNBA, which was probably, I always call it a labor of love, but certainly it was a mission more than a job. But really feeling that I left it much better than I inherited it. And so as we can see now, we're celebrating the 20th anniversary of the WNBA, and I feel so proud to have been a part of that. It was time for me to go back home. I commuted. I live in Florida, and WNBA, NBA are up in New York, so I commute every single week. Time to come home, and at that point, really, the passion I had around women and girls was not something that I was retiring from. I might be retiring from the league, but I wasn't retiring from that passion. And so coming back to a city in the South, felt very strongly that the opportunities for girls and women should be a focus and something that I wanted to try to contribute to. And so Generation W, which is a belief that magic happens when people come together, especially women, was born. And we've had an incredible run of success, and we judge our success by the amount of impact we have in people's lives. And I'm proud to say that Generation W is a national level event that has many different elements and all focused on educating, inspiring, and connecting women, girls, and men. So it's really about connecting community.
Oh, okay. So it's obviously you mentioned men in there, but I love the idea that you're certainly an inspiration, to women in terms of your success and experience. And so you have, what actually happens? You have a quarterly events, you have forums. In what way are people exposed to Generation W?
Well, Generation W first has a signature event, which happens the next one will be March 31st, 2017. Mark your calendars. We bring in anywhere between 40 and 50 different speakers. We generally have a rallying theme. We haven't announced next year, but I can promise you it will be one that will, again, provide you with new knowledge, stimulate your thinking, inspire you to be great, and connect you with people that you have never been connected with before. So all those things will be happening. And then what we do is we have other events during the course of the year. This year, one of our topics was an incredibly inspiring and informative one about women in the military. And we then spun off a follow-up event where we had, the Admiral of the U.S. Region Southeast. We had a retired admiral who was the first one in the country to lead a naval installation. We had one of the great VA docs and also the head of the city here of military affairs to talk about issues. So the idea is we like to bring up issues from a national scale, and then we like to drill down locally. And so that was really significantly. And then later this week, we will be presenting, because Generation W commissioned research, to talk about creating scorecards, really documenting progress or really the leadership presence of women in our community. Because the research is so right there that if you want to be the best you can be, not only as a human being, but broadening that out into the community level, the state level, whatever, you want to access all of your talent in an equitable way. And the way we think to do that is to put together local scorecards that says, okay, let's look at the areas of influence that happen in a city. Where's the communication come from? Where are the social policies made? What is actually happening? And then let's document actually the The scorecard. How many women, how many
Right.
people of color, women of color, how much diversity do you really have in all of these decisions that are being made? Because it matters. And if you really want to get better, we all know that, right? If we're playing a game, we've got to know the score. So we're going to be very proactive in trying to put together these scorecards that we truly hope will become a movement across the country in a very positive way. Like let's get the score up there and just see how we can be better.
Well, that's so inspiring, and thank you very much, Donna. One of the things that we love to talk about, and really from your world of experience, are what you shared with us, which is your success ideas. So with that in mind, I wanted to just list them outright, and please elaborate on them as you wish. You had shared with us the term authenticity, energy, belief, grit, and yes. And with the time remaining, please, Donna, share with us, those words, how they've affected you and how they can inspire our audience.
Sure, I'm going to start from the last one up.
Okay.
Because it's yes before no. Like, really, life is all about possibilities, and you have to open yourself up to look at them from an optimistic, positive way and figure out how to make things happen. I don't have a lot of tolerance for people who are always saying, we can't do this, we can't do it. Why not? Tell me how we can do it. It doesn't mean we always can, but that kind of positive optimism, yes, can do attitude really is, I think, a foundation for building success. And then I'm not going to say it's easy, because that's why you need grit. And ultimately, you need grit and you need to believe. And if you don't have a fundamental belief system that you can do something, if you don't believe you can do it, do you think anybody else is going to believe in you or the concept? Right? You got to come from there. And in all of that, you want to bring energy. Energy underscores all of that opportunity, right? You can grit. If you have grit and you want to dig in and you want to make things happen and you want to be persistent, you got to bring energy to it. And then I say, lastly, be who you are. Be real. I think people in a day and age where I'll tell you what, you're never sure, especially with social media, although I've come to this before social media even was so pervasive, is what is authentic. And I think the being true to yourself, but also being real with other people and who they are, is vitally important.
Well, I love,
when we are consumed by this idea of liking things, what does that really mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm intrigued by it.
Well, I'm intrigued by the word, authenticity, and in following up what you had said, I so agree, because we're bombarded with so many images and impressions, social media, etc. So how do you personally gauge authenticity? How do we gauge in our lives that whether someone is really being true to their word and living their values?
Well, I think that we speak in many ways, right? We speak with our mouths, we speak with our hearts, we speak with our computers, but ultimately it's also how we act. And there was this great marketer, he worked at Coca-Cola. I'll never forget how many years ago I sat in the room with him. He was pretty well known. And I always love quoting what he said, which is, it's not so much what we say we do, right? But it's not so much what we say, right? But so much of the information is in what we don't say. And I think that having a heightened awareness of how people come to you, how information comes to you, and being able to assess what feels authentic, even though a lot of people work at representing themselves as authentic.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I fundamentally believe, I really do believe there's this vibratory connectivity. We're not always right, but I think the most important thing is to try to be aware and assess.
Now, do you feel there's something to be said about a certain instinct or gut feeling? I mean, I sometimes deal with, I've been blessed that I'd like to believe more times than not. Maybe, and some people would call it naive, but a good feeling about someone is, to me, based on what they're saying, how they're saying it. How do you react to it?
I think there's nothing better than having a good gut instinct. I really do. I think instinctually, so many great things have happened in terms of inventions, right? In terms of relationships that yielded new businesses and things that happened that was really based on on a gut. I mean, data analytics are important, and they'll take you to a certain place, and there's a place for that. But I do believe that whole concept of gut and instinct is incredibly important.
I agree. I mean, I don't know how to gauge it. I don't know how to measure it. It's not something, but it's kind of an instinct. And the other thing I wanted to follow up, which I love, is especially what you said about yes, that idea of optimism. Again, half full versus half empty, etc. And how has that affected you in terms of your success as it relates to whether it be as a basketball player, Generation W, etc.?
It actually engages me in the world as positively as possible. I find that I have this unceasing interest in learning, in being exposed to as many things as I could possibly find. And, that runs counter, again, to some business teachings or productivity teachings, which is, you got to focus and you got to dial in and all that kind of stuff. But for me, the dialing in and the yes is all about possibilities. And I love to connect the dots. And so, therefore, I love to be able to, I want to learn more about physics, right? I'm not a physics person. I'm not really a great math person. But there's things that you can learn from that to the arts, right, to sports, to the sciences. I love to read. I love to write. So be able to connect all of that in a way that makes sense. And truthfully, I think in a way, when we look at what's happening in education today, certainly at colleges and universities, it is this multifaceted approach to driving solutions in a creative way that is positive for, I think, the evolving growth of humanity.
Well, with that said, Donna, I feel it through the phone line, so to speak. You're exuding the optimism, and I so appreciate it. And just as a refresh, what you talked to us today about, which is so true, is authenticity, the energy, that belief system, the grit, and especially the yes and the optimism. So I really want to thank you very much for your time today, Donna, and for being a guest on Game On. In a short strokes, how do we reach you? How do we reach Generation W and learn more about it?
That's a great question. I'm so glad you asked. I would love if people are more comfortable going by email, they can send us info, of course, at, let me make sure I have this right. I believe it's Generation W. Okay. Info at Generation W. Here it is. I got it right here. Info at genwnow.com. Our website is genwnow.com. Our Facebook, which is Generation W, you can reach us through there. And, of course, you can reach us at our office, which is, I can give the phone number, which is 904-372-4859. We welcome all. We love to meet people. We love to engage. We are open to all ideas, and we always say yes before we say no. So there's an invitation. Great. Well, thank you again, Donna. So again, no, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Oh, I appreciate your time. So again, thank you for listening to Game On. Please tune every Tuesday at 11 a.m. on Blog Talk Radio. Game On with Jerry Jacob, or listen to all interviews on Facebook.com/Game On with Jerry Jacob. And you can also find us on iTunes as well. So again, Donna, thank you again for your time, and looking forward to seeing you again. Such a pleasure, and a call out to the owners of this. These are fantastic women who are creating a great business, and I just want to let everyone know how much I admire Tandy and all the work she's done as well. So thank you so much. Great. Thank you.